All right, Brandon and Kristen, you have learned to love and respect each other. You have chosen to make a life together. Today, in the presence of your family, personal friends, and the presence of God, you will speak your marriage vows. With your vows, you will announce publicly the love that you share with one another, and to each other promise to be faithful to each other.
Okay, so the way Brandon and I met was he came into work and I sold him a phone. I had just gotten back from lunch and I had food all down my shirt, so I was trying to hide that because that's not professional. And so I was trying to cover up my shirt, and then I was like, oh, he's so cute.
Single guy, and I was like, oh, she's cute. I'll just flirt with the girl selling me my phone. Sent her a Facebook request. We kind of, commented on a couple things for the next few weeks.
And so I gave him my business card, and he will say that I invited him to Puerto Rico the next week with 7 girls, which is not a lie. I did say that.
It was 2 months later, I passed her and a bunch of her friends on their motorcycles because she had a Gixxer 750. I went by, I'm like, that was a girl on that bike. I'm like, I messaged her and said, was that you on Lester Highway? And she goes, yeah, where'd you see me? And I said, what are you doing? You want to go out this weekend?
And then after about 2 months of being friends on Facebook, we went on our first date.
Well, we went on that first date, and then I had my daughter for a week or something, just one of those, didn't really see her. And then I moved 2 weeks later, and then we started hanging out about the week I moved, and then.
So he had recently moved, and he had moved into an apartment right in between our first and second date. So our second date was a car show, and he's a photographer, so he was doing all the backstage stuff at this car show.
We book a lot of our vacations around car shows, so she's down for all that. And the crazy part with that is I've shot for car and truck magazines for 20 years. And when she moved in with me, we was going through some of her photo albums. She had a show car back in 2005. Her senior project was putting a body kit on the car. She was into the custom vehicles back then. And I was flipping through her pictures, and I'm like, this is Bristol, right? And she's like, yeah. I was like, I was there covering that show for a magazine. I start looking through her pictures. She's in the stands of the drag strip, shooting down where they're doing the burnout contest. And I start paying attention to what's, it started coming back to me. I'm like, I'm in these pictures somewhere. I started flipping through her pictures, and a dozen of her photos. I'm in her photos taking pictures for the magazine, and we never knew each other.
So I always feel like when I was a little girl, you always kind of dream of, wanting to get married. But the older I got, I was kind of like, well, if it happens, it happens. I don't really care. I'm fairly independent, so I didn't really care. And then when I met Brandon, he was he had been previously married, and he said that he would never get remarried. And so I just chalked it up as, hey, this is how we're going to do life. And, we were okay with that.
We dated for a little bit through there, and then it was a couple years later we wound up building a house, and then moved to the new house, and she still shows up every day. So I figured after 7 years it was time to go ahead and propose.
But he caught me off guard one day, so I was walking out of work and he called me, and we send lots of pictures back and forth, inappropriate memes, jokes, things like that. And he says, I'm sending you a picture. I need you to look at it and tell me what you think. Well, naturally, I'm thinking it's going to be parts for the truck or something for Kristen's car, or, something along those lines, a pair of shoes. So I nearly tripped and broke my phone when he sent me the engagement ring, because if you know Brandon, he had said for a long time he wasn't going to go down this road again. And so it really caught me off guard, and it was a special moment.
Well, I was dropping the truck that's sitting up there, I was dropping it off in Oklahoma. So we drove the truck to Oklahoma to the shop, and then we flew to New York. And she even tried to change the vacation. Well, I can't get off that week, with work. And I'm like, that's the only week I can get off. And I faked an argument and said, we got to go that week. There's no way we can go another week. That's the only week I can be off. I almost made her cry, but it's like, I can't let her know that this is going on. So we drive out there, and on the way there, a couple of our friends had posted on Facebook, hey, we're getting divorced or whatever. And I started another fake deal. That's why you don't get married. I'm never getting married again. You don't do that. That's why. And she thought I was serious about it. And the whole time, the ring's in the bag in the back seat, and she had no clue.
I was shocked. He never told me that. He never brought up that he was going to do this or I was thinking about doing this. And even we had dropped his truck off at a shop in Oklahoma City, and then we were going to fly to New York City.
So then we fly to New York. We're there for a couple days, and I already had it planned for May 16th. It had to be on that day. And we're up there, and she's like, hey, the Yankees are playing. Let's go to a game. It's like Tuesday. Well, I already had tickets for Thursday. I'm like, no, I'm not into baseball. I don't feel like going. Let's just don't go. And she's just, okay, super easy going. She's, as long as I'm happy, she's happy. The next night, hey, let's go to a Broadway show. I'm really tired. You know, I don't feel like going. Already had Broadway tickets, but I couldn't tell her that. And this was on a Thursday morning that I proposed. So Wednesday night, I called my daughter and said, we're standing there, Times Square, and she walks off to get a drink or something from one of the vendors. And I called my daughter and said, hey, just so you know, I'm proposing tomorrow. And, you know, this kind of let you know before I do. So the next morning we get up, and Kristen's sister and her brother-in-law, Michael, flew up to New York. She had no clue they were coming. No one knew they were going. We even lied to Kristen's mom about who was doing what. Like, the logistics of it was a nightmare. I'm trying to keep her turned where she can't see Lee and Michael. And I'm watching them behind her because they were taking pictures and stuff, and I'm seeing where they're going. And then finally I'd turn around and say, you know what today is, don't you? She goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, today's the day that we met. She's like, yeah, you know, it's been whatever, kind of hugged me to think nothing about it. And I got down and I spun her around to where Lee and Michael could have pictures of her reaction, and then proposed to her. She stood up crying and everything. Oh my God, who knew? I'm like, they knew. And she's like, oh my God, when did they get here? And Lee was like, we just got here. We ain't even been to the hotel. We literally just got off the airplane. And they still had their backpacks and stuff. Well, how'd you know we was doing this? And it's like, all this was planned. That's why I couldn't change the date. That's why that trip to Oklahoma had to tie into the trip to New York. Like, that was adamant about that. And she had zero clue.
And then at our 7-year of meeting, he proposed in Times Square. So.
Well, being the day we met and the day I proposed was May 16th. And when I proposed to her, I said, hey, it's a couple years. I'm not going to rush into this. Let's just take our time. Standing in Times Square, she goes, well, next year, May 16th is on a Saturday. Why don't we just do that? And I was like, no, I don't want to do it that soon. So by the time we got home from New York, it was already set. We were doing May 16th. And then, of course, the first year, everybody knows the world shuts down.
So I always said up until March of last year, it was the smoothest wedding planning I feel like anybody has ever done. There was really no any bumps in the road. It was like easy peasy. My sister had recently gotten married, so her list of vendors were perfect. So I just started like calling and making sure they were available. And then of course COVID hit, and I started to, stress a little. And so we did elope on our wedding day our original wedding day after we decided to postpone it because the date was sentimental because it's the day we met and the day that he proposed. And then we postponed it until July because we thought, hey, we'll give it a couple months. This should be good to go.
The governor said we couldn't do it still, so we postponed it. The venue closed down, lost their deposit. So now we had to find a new venue. So that, like, everything was stacked against us. A couple months go by, we have this venue booked out, have the date, which is May 15th, which is the day before our actual, the day that we needed. Our cake lady for the wedding cake moves to Texas. So now we got to find another cake. And then there was a change in bridesmaids. It was just, and then the week of the wedding is the national gas shortage. Everybody's out of gas. I'm like, we're not going to have anybody show up at the wedding because nobody can get gas. I'm like, it's meant for us not to be married. Can we just go ahead and cancel this now? And
I feel like all the odds were against us for so many things, whether it had been our original venue shutting down, original plans not going through, people who were able to come to the original wedding not be able to come to this wedding, or vice versa. We've had losses in the family, so we've had people who would have been there with us last year who cannot be with us here this year. So there's definitely been some bumps, but we made it through. It only made us stronger, so that's a good thing.
We both work crazy schedules. We're both gone a lot. Both just super busy, but we always make it work. So, and it's just, I couldn't ask for somebody that's there for me more than she's been there. So.
Oh, he's my absolute world. Like, I really cannot imagine my life without him, and I really can't, like, my life before him doesn't really seem, like, I know I had a life before him, but it's like, I'm like, oh, I lived without him. It doesn't really, like, of course I had my friends and my good times, but it just doesn't seem like my life was, like, whole at that point.
I don't know if I'd be able to make it through a day-to-day life without her. She keeps me grounded. She keeps me, when stress gets crazy, she shuts that down and makes it non-stressful. So, thank goodness my cell phone broke. Without my cell phone breaking, I don't think we ever would have met. I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason. It was meant for my phone to break. It was meant for her to be there that day with her lunch spilled on her shirt, trying to hide it the whole time that she was there. And the goofiness that she had the day that I met her, it made me stick to her. So I couldn't imagine the rest of my life without her.
Our Heavenly Father, together with Brandon and Kristen, we now ask your blessings upon their life and their family together. We each wish to have them be happy and together forever. May this marriage last as long as they both shall live. Amen. Insomuch as you, Brandon and Kristen, have consented in holy matrimony and have been witnessed by God and all these friends that had to stand up forever, by the virtue and authority vested in me as the minister of God. Which way you Sorry. I now pronounce you man and wife. So as long as two are together but one flesh, what therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. You can kiss the bride again.
You got a smile that makes the sun rise. You make it shine. But I can see that you don't realize, and that's what made me fall in love. 'Cause you got style, the way your body makes my heart beat sound. It's amazing all the time. You are the only thing I need in life. Oh, I want you. Can't you see? I want you. I believe, 'cause I want you. Here with me, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go crazy for love. I look at you, I know it's alright. You read my mind, but I can see that you don't realize, and that's what made me fall in love. 'Cause you got style, the way your body makes my heart beat sound. It's amazing all the time. You are the only thing I need in life. Oh, I want you. Can't you see? I want you. I believe, 'cause I want you. Here with me, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go crazy for love. I don't need another love. Yeah. We do this every day. We do this love for life. You got a smile that makes the sun rise. You make it shine. But I can see that you don't realize, and that's what made me fall in love. 'Cause you